Welcome back to the PPM Winter Circle podcast. I'm your host, Hunter. Next to me on my right is Mr. Rodney.
Hello, folks.
Man in the gray is Mr. Randy.
Hi again.
And guy in the PPM hat and shirt is the cat in the hat, Mr. Ricky.
Hello, everybody.
World famous.
Oh, Lord. Cat in the hat.
As y'all can tell, we got a guest with us, and who are you?
Kelley Carlton.
Mr. Kelley Carlton. A lot of y'all know that name. Goes way back in racing history. Especially now he's running. How many series do you got now?
I actually cut back a little bit this year. I have our new Super Late Model Series, Southern Thunder Super Dirt Series, and then I have my SCDRA, Sport Compact Dirt Racing Association stuff, and that's kind of the bread and butter this year. Kind of easing back a little bit.
So, how'd you get started in racing? Like involved with it and come to love it as much as you do?
Well, my dad owned race cars when I was growing up, so I grew up in a race shop, and my mom tells me that I was at the racetrack when I was 9 months old. My daughter beat that record. She was 11 days old when we took her the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So just it's a family thing, progressed from there. My brother worked at the racetrack locally there in Woodruff, South Carolina, and then I started helping him like run lineups. He was scoring back when we used pen and paper or pencils and paper to do it, and I helped him with like lineups and things like that when I was 12 or so years old, and then I just got hooked up with a buddy, Brian Lane, who's on the wall out here. He and I built a race car, and we raced together for several years, and that's kind of where it all really started. My biggest love of it was being involved in it that much. I had to leave racing for a little bit. I went off to college, and life happened, family and all that kind of stuff. But I got Rick Weathers, who used to be a flagman over at Lawrence County Speedway. I just happened to go to watch a Shrine race one night because I wanted to go and support the Shriners, and he flagged me down out of the grandstands, and I came and talked to him, and he said, "I wish you'd come and help me a little bit. I'm having to work." He worked. He was a firefighter, and he worked 24 on, 48 off, and so every third week it was getting messed up and not able to go to the race. So I started helping him, and by the end of that year, I was doing it full time. He retired and left it to me, so I started flagging out there at the Speedway. That was 90-something, 95 maybe. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I was very lucky and very fortunate to be in the right position at the time to get hooked up with Lynn Ackland and Southern All-Stars, and then he introduced me to B.J. Parker, and that's really where it took off.
Yeah.
Was, getting into the series stuff and doing Southern All-Stars, working for B.J. But I don't want to discount that time I was at Lawrence either, because I'll tell you what, Fred and Janet Cogswell, who were there, that were the promoters there, really taught me a lot about the business of racing, and really kind of probably got me interested in the business aspect of racing, and they actually were the first people to take me down to RPM in Florida to the Race Promoters Convention down there, and got to meet like Emmett Hahn and Chris Economaki and all those guys, and hear them talk about the racing business. So that kind of whet my appetite, if you will, and then being with BJ really, I learned a lot about not just racing business, but about the life business from BJ. So pretty proud of that time.
Yeah, BJ was a character.
He was. He always had a story and always had a joke, and he knew wherever morsel of food there was to be had anywhere he went.
You got to realize that with him doing that Southern All-Star, Southern All-Stars was the game. It was the game. We was talking to somebody the other day. I remember we would do the Shamrock around here. The Shamrock meant racing was fixing to kick off. Yep. And then we'd go and do the Gobbler.
And that was the final race of the year.
And that was final. You usually ended up at Cleveland. It was, pretty much there was no announcing those schedules. You pretty well know we're going to do it again like we did last year, there was no, there was off season.
Right.
Back
sure
then.
Was.
And I remember looking forward. I forget who I was talking. Maybe Mike Weeks I was talking to. I said I remember looking forward to the Shamrock. I know that's when racing was going to kick off, and we'd go to Cleveland. And it was a Southern All-Star deal, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Always, yeah.
Yeah.
When Joe Lee Johnson had it, and then even when Monty had it, we always opened up in March. It was always around that March 15, 16, 17 range. We ended up starting there with the Shamrock.
You realize who Joe Lee Johnson is, right?
Uh-oh.
You ever heard of Coca-Cola 600?
Okay.
He was the first winner.
He was the first winner of it.
Okay.
And it's Ronnie's dad.
Okay.
He had Cleveland, which is gone now, but that's a little bit of history. As a kid, I thought that's neat. Hey, he's the first one to ever win the 600.
World 600. then.
World 600, and it wasn't Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It was World 600. But, yeah, that's a little bit tells a little bit on our age, don't it?
Indeed.
And you go down to Cleveland. I know we're kind of rambling around, but it's good stuff. We go over, and Joe Lee had the big generator. He'd fire it up.
Diesel generator.
Diesel generator and run his lights.
Yep.
Yeah.
Till the day it closed, they had that generator
Yeah.
to run the lights.
He'd run his lights off that. Ain't no electric company. He had a generator.
No telling how much diesel he went through.
Yeah.
Might not work out this day and time.
No way. Not as expensive it is now.
So, what is some things that, far as a series promoter and owner and everything, what is some of the hardest things to do? I mean, you've owned and worked with a bunch of different series. Now you got Southern Thunder and the SCDRA. What's some of the hardest things in today's society that's hard to do when promoting and owning a series?
The biggest thing it's an easy answer right off the bat is scheduling. Scheduling's so tough because there's a race every weekend now. Like Rodney said, there's no off season. So the reason there's no off season is because there's so many other races during the year. So we're having to figure out when we can run a race to be able to get our races in to satisfy our sponsor. Mm-hmm. And obviously we're not in this business to lose money. We want to make a little money from it, and so making sure that we get those good dates where we're not against somebody that's going to hurt our event, and we're not going to hurt a racetrack that's one of our series tracks or something like that. That's by far the toughest. I spend maybe people don't believe it, but and Ray and I talk about this. Ray Cook and I talk about this all the time. We spend just hours upon hours looking at calendars and dates and days and on the phone with promoters and and it'll change. We'll have it and it'll change 16 times before we actually print something, so it's by far the hardest thing there is. The rest of it, to be honest, is a piece of cake compared to that. It really is.
So you go in their room, and they got a big board, and they're all time moving stuff. They back up and look at it. No, that ain't going to work.
And you can't just call the track up and say, hey, I want this date.
Absolutely not. And that's the other thing. You have to negotiate with them, and they always want traditional dates and things that they want to use. So getting that balance in it. And I have to be honest with those guys, too. When I look at something, I see that, hey, this is not going to work for you. This is not going to turn out good for either of us. Sometimes I'll lose a date over that, but I'd rather do that than see somebody lose a bunch of money and hurt somebody else too, because when we split it up, we just all hurting each other.
So what made you want to start the Southern Thunder?
Well, I had my eyes set on going a little slower even more this year. I was going to cut back quite a bit this year. I had decided I was going to leave Ultimate at the end of the year last year, but Travis Scott, who has worked for me since he was 15 years old, and he's in his 30s now. Worked for me, with me, however you want to say that, and he started out at 15 years old as an announcer for me, and was really one of the best in the country as far as I'm concerned. And he's been after me for a few years now. If we ever had the opportunity, we wanted to start our own program. And the truth of it is, we really wanted to buy Southern All-Stars and do it with Southern All-Stars, because that's where he started, that's where I started with series, that's what we wanted to do. We sort of had a deal in place, but just some things fell through with it. I'm glad Ray ended up with it, because you know, it does have a special place in our hearts. We definitely don't want to see anything happen with it, and want to see it keep going and that kind of thing. And but anyway, Travis and I, you know, it was like now or never kind of thing. We had some financial backing, some people that will help us a little bit to get going, and I was pretty hypocritical about it because I always said, man, this, you know, this is not, we don't need any more racing series. But as we talked, Travis is actually the race director for Hunt the Front as well. He does all their shows. So he had quite a bit of interaction with racetracks in that region and, you know, that they're racing. And I had kind of pigeonholed myself a little bit into the Carolinas mostly there with the Ultimate stuff. So I had fell out of that scene a little bit. But Travis was really in touch with it and had a lot of racers, and a lot of racetracks came to him and talked to him about, you know, not everybody could get a Hunt the Front race. You know, there's only so many that they can do. So, you know, he had this idea that maybe we just start up another in that region. And we're really super excited to work with the folks at Hunt the Front TV. I've been very impressed with their production. Logan is amazing, just one of the smartest guys you'll ever see. So that's where it started. Travis had this thing and he wanted to do it. He's kind of the managing partner, and I just work for him. That's what I tell everybody. If you got a problem, you got to go talk to Travis. I just work for him. So I'm pretty proud of him and what he's done. He's been really successful in everything he's done in his life. So I don't expect this to be any different for him. We're going to work real hard to make sure it is successful.
I kind of feel old. You said he's in his 30s.
Yeah, I know.
I remember
Trust me.
just a little scrawny, skinny thing.
Yeah, trust me. Somebody shared a picture the other day of us at Talladega, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because he looks like, I mean, a literal baby standing behind me, you know. And he's a grown man now with a kid and a real job and doing great things.
Tell us a little bit about the what is it, SCDRA?
SCDRA is a Sport Compact Dirt Racing Association. So we started it's spawned out of that race in South Georgia down there at Screven, where they started out as 5,000 to win, and he needed some help with tech down there and things like that. So he asked if we could help, and we started out. And man, I make no bones about it. I tell all these guys I absolutely hated those race cars. I didn't like the way they sounded. I didn't like the way they looked, and I sure didn't like what they looked like on the inside and their safety standards. And the more I got into it, I really, really fell in love with the crowd and the atmosphere of those guys. That they're very almost like a big family. They help each other, and it reminded me a lot of old school racing, how things were, you know, back when my dad was going to the racetrack and things like that. So we got more and more into that, and I guess, I don't know, like the 4th or 5th year we did it, some of the racers, in particular one, Bruce, came to me and said, you know, if you ever started a traveling type thing, you'd probably have 15 or 20 guys follow you everywhere you go. And I said, really, you think? Do you think that's would be able to work for those guys? Because, you know, they're obviously they're budget racers.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, we'll give it a shot. So that next year, I booked a race at Travelers Rest Speedway in South Carolina. I booked one at Cherokee, and then we had a couple set for Scrub. So it was like 4 or 5 races that we did, and we ended up averaging like 42 cars at every one of them, you know. So I was like, well, maybe there's something to this. And then kind of my biggest issue was, again, about how they looked and about how they were built, was the real reason I got interested and wanted to help with it. I wanted to improve the safety of the cars. I wanted to see them be better than they were, a lot better. And but I also knew that they're budget racers, and I've got to figure out a way to make them believe in what I believe in. If you understand where I'm coming from there, I needed them to believe that my intention was to help them. So we.
It's a good thing, right?
Yeah. We set some deals, like we put some of the safety stuff in, like, okay, if you wear a head and neck restraint, we're going to give you a weight break. If you have a full containment seat, we're going to give you a weight break. And then, my guys that helped me out were such a big help in this. Is we would inspect cages at every race. We looked at everybody's cages at every race, and we weren't jerks about it. But if your if your cage was not safe, we sent you home. We with instructions on how to fix it, or our suggestions on how to fix it. And we were looking at things like belts and all that stuff, just mounting. So much of that stuff that those guys, nobody ever helped them. They just put their stuff together and did. They thought it was the way to go race, and I want them to be able to race, but I wanted them to be able to race safely. So that's really what this whole thing's all about. And this is our 10th anniversary this year. We do, on average, we'll run about a race a month. That's kind of what works for them travel-wise and financially. I'm really proud that we were involved in that first Bristol dirt thing, and everybody got, had to go through an inspection. We sent a few guys home from there, and they sold a lot of safety gear that weekend. I wish somebody had done late models that week, because I'm going to tell you, I was at a racetrack last year. I'm not going to say where, but I had some guys I'd never seen before, and I'm going to say it was 6 or 7 guys had expired belts in their race car in late models. And that's scary stuff. So, but yeah, I'm really proud of that. Those guys have been great. In fact, next weekend we'll be here in Tennessee in Gatlinburg for our annual banquet to crown our champion, Reed Christensen from Georgia.
You brought something up out of the seatbelts. Explain to these guys why there's an expiration date and all that.
Absolutely. So anything, it's just like any other, like your clothes that you wear. After you have wear and tear on them, they stretch, they dry rot. You've cleaned them, you've gotten putting soap and water into them a lot of times, even though it's not a good idea. It starts to break down and start to deteriorate. And I mean, if that belt breaks, I mean, you're done for. So we're really strict about that. We if your belts are expired at all, we make you change them. We have.
One way I was explained to it was that when they're new, they're designed to give something.
Absolutely stretch a little bit.
And when they get older, you just keep
lose
tightening
the
them up,
stretch,
and they lose the
stretch.
stretch.
They do lose their stretch or elasticity, I believe is what they call it. And it also, those fibers, man, if you ever look at it, if you look at a new one versus an old one that's 3 or 4 years old, you can just see it's just so much more brittle and it's deteriorated. And man, I tell them this in drivers' meetings. This was kind of one of my taglines, if you will, is I don't think there's anybody that comes to my races that can't afford to go to work on Monday morning. Everybody's got to go to work, and you're crazy to get in a race car and not be as safe as you absolutely possibly can to make sure you can go to work on Monday morning. So that was, and I feel like we've even carried that further, like with the double wrapping of the seatbelts. Like a lot of guys didn't understand that, and myself and there's a fella out Michigan way, Todd, who does a lot of safety videos, and he and I have worked together about that. Even the guys at Hooker Harness have done videos and like just product cards that show you how to do that wrap, because it's not the easiest thing to do.
No,
that.
it's not.
So that kind of stuff, and I'll have like some of that stuff in my booth this weekend. I try to take some of that stuff everywhere I go, because it helps everybody.
Right.
Right.
Well, I remember when we had our car, Ricky used to tell the boy that drove for us, he said, he's bad. When he first started riding, he wouldn't wear gloves. Didn't like earplugs. And he kept his horns unfast. So finally one night, Ricky told him, he said, listen, I don't care what you bring back. I don't care if you bring the steering wheel back bent, as long as you come back.
Yeah.
The truth about it is Ray Cook had told me twice.
Yeah.
He's not got his horns hooked up.
Yeah.
And I went to him, and I mean, you know who he is.
Oh yeah.
I went to him and I said, I'd like to be here next week with you, but the last thing I want to do is go to your funeral and have to tell your boy what happened.
100%.
He didn't care to wear it after I said that.
Yeah, and it's.
Damn.
Ryan Priest with that Ricky had the Cup race this weekend. He said that when it went quiet and he was in the air, the first thing he thought of was his kid, and that ain't the time to be thinking about it. when you're getting in. And, you know, we saw this deal with Brian Shirley
Yeah.
at Needmore, and that's one of the things that, again, I give credit to Todd. He's done that video and challenged racers to time themselves getting out of the race car. Get in your car, get all your full gear out. You need to practice that. You need to know the things that are going to happen and be in a hurry about it, trying to get out. And that is important. And obviously, you know, I know Kevin Rumley is working on some stuff right now too, trying to look at greenhouses, and I hate saying that word, but it's the truth of what they call it, is making that cockpit.
Well, the one thing that was even more dangerous, or was just as bad, was that deal that Freddie Carpenter got into. down
Oh,
there.
absolutely. That was,
When you got a door or a bumper at your halo.
yeah, bad situation. But it's all the safety stuff that we've come up with over the years in the sport has really helped. I understand it. The biggest issue, and we talked about this, Kevin and I talked about this, is we need to make sure we're doing things that try to prevent where you have to get out in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we need to be more proactive, and we have obviously with fuel cells and whatnot. But obviously there was an issue there, and I'll give credit to that fuel cell manufacturer. He flew to where Brian was at that shop, went and picked that fuel cell up that next day to take it back and figure out what happened, and so. That's the kind of proactivity we need.
I read the post that Brian put on there, and my understanding the motor went to diesel in there.
Yeah. So it dropped a rod or something, and so it was running off its own oil. It wasn't fuel anymore. It was running off its own oil. But it was shooting that fire out the headers, and it got so hot under the car. Now, this is what Brian said, was it got so hot under the car that the bladder inside of the fuel cell melted. And that's why there was fuel pouring out of the fuel cell, which is, it's insane to think about that amount of heat.
Yeah.
But if you look at that video, you can see, and it looks like two giant blowtorches under that car, pumping that oil, burning oil and flame out from under that thing.
I couldn't figure out why he wasn't getting out of it.
He at first he didn't realize it was as bad as it was.
Yeah.
He did say that, and kudos to those guys, those hunt the front guys that were there. Both of those guys that were there are licensed, certified firefighters that work in the fire service. So they did what they needed to do to give him the time to get out. And a lot of times that's all you're going to do. You're not going to be able to put that fire out. You can just keep it back to get somebody out.
Yeah. Bad deal.
Sure stuff.
Yeah. It was scary. And Travis
You don't get no. There's no guessing. And I like what he said about practicing getting out. You don't really think about that as a driver, practicing how quick you can get out. You know, so
with all your stuff on. Yeah.
And I would like to see these tracks have crews that respond quicker.
Yeah.
You know, years ago, Atomic had those guys over there.
Motorsports Rescue.
Motorsports Rescue.
Shannon
and, buddy,
Dishner.
if something happened, they were right at your door.
Yeah, Shannon Dishner.
Yeah, it's an expense, but it's also a good expense.
Not nearly as expensive as a lawsuit and a funeral.
You got it, yes.
So on touching on like getting out of the car quick, because it's come up quite a few times here recently, especially, talking to me at least, that these guys are like asking promoters and racetracks, are we allowed to run a hatch in our roof to get out quickly? Is that something that you do allow too?
I would be okay with that, but a lot of times the way they're building some of those halos now, it wouldn't work
because of the
way
crossbar.
The way the crossbar is. But I'm all for anything like that. There's, I'd say Kevin Rumley's my friend, but he would find a way to use that to make speed. But I'm okay with that if he did. I'm okay with that if he did. If it means getting somebody out a little faster.
The biggest thing is just keeping the window open and big enough to get out.
100%. And I'm friends with Randy LaJoy, and he and I have talked about it a few times. And obviously, we've talked about a lot of different things with like hinging that left side and with a pin or something like that. But then you have the problem of will the hinge stand up to the SFI rating that it has to be, and it's pretty convoluted about. But they are working on that stuff.
Well, you got the same problem a lot of the NASCAR people's got. These seats have got better and better, and if you had to go out the right side, it's harder even for a dirt late model guy to go that way.
Yep. almost impossible.
yeah.
Yeah, almost impossible. So, I guess everything that's a blessing is a curse, and everything that's a curse is a blessing.
Right.
But and that's why I say I really think it's a lot of what we do has to be focused on preventing something like happened with Brian there, to prevent those fires. And obviously he had a fire suppression system and it went off, but there's nothing it can do in that situation, and obviously it's not something Brian could have ever, in that moment, it just didn't occur to him. But it's possible that he could have put it out, putting it in gear and standing on the brake, dumping the clutch.
How many motors you see blow up and not diesel
exactly.
like that?
It's just
just a
uncanny.
different deal.
Josh Rice had that one a couple years ago at Eldora, and that's really his and Brian's are the only ones I've ever seen. Yeah. And I'm 53, so I've been around a little bit, so I've just never seen it before on a gas engine. Obviously, see it on diesels all the time, but never with gas like that.
So how many races you got scheduled?
We have 28 on the Southern Thunder. Potential to shoehorn one or two more in there. Some of them I'm super excited about too. I'm excited about all of them, but some of those, we bringing back the B.J. Parker Memorial this year. That was very
cool.
important for me.
Yeah.
And we're going to be part of the Alfred Gurley race there. Who, Alfred obviously had a lot of influence on me there at Talladega, and me and Adam are such, close friends. It's cool that Adam grew up. I watched Adam line up cars at Talladega all them years, and then go to the flag stand and all that. Now he owns the joint, so kind of cool. But yeah, we got 28 on Southern Thunder, and then I have 12-ish with SCDRA, and that's plenty.
Yeah.
That's plenty.
Now they're scheduled with your Thunder deal, or
What's that?
The
No. They're usually separate. Every once in a while, I'll have one.
I'm doing the math here. That's
where we
40
work
weekends.
together. Yeah, it's yeah. Some of my Thunder races are double headers, and like at Talladega, one of the races we're doing, the Alfred Gurley race, we're actually doing twin 25. So it's 2,500 to win each feature, and you get to race both features. So essentially, it's a 5,000 win race. Pretty cool night.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's a little something different.
Kind of like you done the East deal.
Yep. We did it a couple times with East, and we did it once or twice with Ultimate up at 311 when we split it up like that.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
What's the payouts look like this year?
So all of our races are at least 5,000 in supers. All of our races are at least 5,000 to win. Again, that doubleheader deal that night is really a $5,000 purse. Same amount of laps and all that. But we have a bunch of 7,500s and a bunch of 10,000 to wins. We probably have half of them are 5,000 to win, and the other half are 10 or 7,500 or 10,000 to win. And then all of my SCDRA races are all at least 5,000 to win. I'm helping William at Clarksville with his deal coming up at the end of the month. And it's 10,000 to win one day show, and they're actually doing one the day before at Paducah that's 10,000 to win one day show. So a lot of money out there for those guys this year.
How many cars do you think you'll have?
We should be close to 80 to 100, somewhere in that range. Yeah, that's a lot of that 100. Yeah, it's a lot of that. That's why I have a good quality headset. But they have that 100,000 to win show this year for those guys too. So some of those guys are actually kind of having to sit back and wait till that race happens too, because they've got so much invested in going to that thing. So and William tempered his expectations about that. We talked about that quite a bit, but we're going to average 40-ish cars at every one of those shows. Like I said, it really is a great group of guys, and man, we've kind of started new. We have one over in the Northeast. It's around that Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, over that way, and then we have some guys that are doing one that's called Ohio Valley in that region, that are kind of splintered off, and they do their own thing. They just use our rule set, and we work together, and I try to help them, and they try to help us. So we really are building that class up in those different regions around there. But no disrespect to my buddies up there in the Northeast, I really think and I think a lot of it is because we've been doing it as long as we have. The guys in the South, generally everywhere they go, there's like 5 or 6 guys that are the favorites at any one of those races. You know, Andrew Smith from Georgia down there, he's won like $250,000 in these cars. I mean, he's won a lot of money in these things. And you know, Reed Christensen, he actually won, I don't know, maybe $25,000 last year. I mean, there's a lot of money out there for these guys, and it's cool to see them win it. And they work just as hard as anybody else in the racing business.
Sure they do, yeah.
One night last winter, last fall, I was watching I think it's a Lucas race from Delaware.
Yeah.
And, you know, they show the whole night. A buddy of mine, I was on the phone with him, and he said he was doing something. Let me know when the late models come out. Well, the front-wheel drives was racing. And they got done, and I said, you might have missed the best race of the night.
And it really is true.
Because there's 3 of them racing for the lead.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
It really does. Now, this race we just had 2 weeks ago at Screven was incredible. They got to lap traffic, and there was 4 guys racing for the lead. And, I mean, it was – you can go and watch it on YouTube right now. It's intense how hard they're racing because they're in that lap traffic. And so it's 4 guys racing for the lead, but there's 3 lap cars in the middle of all that too. So it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And Mr. Kelley, do you have a website that everybody can see on the
We do.
SCDRA?
We have our Southern Thunder website is southernthunderseries.com, and then SCDRA is scdra.net. And, of course, we've got all the social media stuff. We're lucky enough on Southern Thunder. We have a young fellow named Jack Coper who does our social media and stuff like that. And he's really a go-getter. He's starting a TikTok and all that stuff that I don't know anything about. So, but yeah, you can find us on all that stuff. I'm pretty excited about. You know, we got our first 2 races under our belt, so I feel like we ought to be picking up. I hate to kind of killed our momentum for weather this weekend, but. Part of it, right?
Yeah.
And on those website has all the payouts and rules and
yes, sir.
everything, schedule and everything.
All the rules are on there on both websites. Tire rule for the super late models is on there, like our SCDRA. They're all on DOT tires, so that makes it easy for
That's
them.
what a website's for.
Yeah.
Why are you thinking about building a car?
No.
I thought you might build and let me drive.
But, well, you got the place to build one, I'll tell you what. But no, I just asked. You know, there are some. I'll name them. There are a series or 2 that their website doesn't show everything that you need.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I like getting on
You know
those,
how I am.
I like getting those on those websites, and you have nowhere to contact anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are. We're on our soapbox again. But I got an important question for Kelley. Just how hard is Rusty to get along with?
Well, since he's my older brother, much older, it's a beautiful day outside. But no, I'm very thankful to have had Rusty to kind of lead the way and let me get into to kind of watch him go into racing and help me get into it. And he basically fully retired at the end of the year last year. He's retired from his real world job, so now he sits home and watches TV. I tell him he's a soap opera queen. He watches soap operas every day. But he's settled down quite a bit. He's much more demure now.
He might have told me to change a thing or 2 a few times. And I kind of told him I wasn't. And he didn't care for that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I miss having him. You know, Alton Wilson, who's like a brother to me.
Yeah,
he retired at the end of this year fully. That was he's had some medical issues. Rusty has too. So they kind of. I tell them I'm keep on. I'm gonna put all these guys out to pasture before it's over with.
I think Ricky liked to go race with you just so we could mess with Rusty, and then it was awesome. Yeah.
That's a good possibility because he was easy. He was easy to mess with.
Rusty is pretty fun.
He was easy to mess with. There's a great picture. It was at North Georgia, and I'm standing there looking at the car, and there's 3 guys looking at me, and Rusty's pointing at something.
We was up at the PRI show.
He was complaining.
We was up at the PRI show, and Alton come through, and he looked at Rodney, and he said, "That one right there, I can't figure him out. He never talks to me unless he's coming through tech.
Smart guy. I've been so lucky. I do want to say that while I'm got you time here, is I've been so lucky with people that have worked with me over the years. That I've just had such a supportive staff, and I still have a bunch of great guys that are helping me now. So I appreciate all of them, everything they do. It's not easy to stand down there and get yelled at when it's not even it's not your decision, or you didn't. Yeah. And then they've done it all those years. Alton was always a pointer, though. He'd point up at the tower. He'd go talk to that guy. Yeah.
You help with the dome, don't you?
I do. I've been the race director for it since it started. I'm still going to do that. I'm still going to do Wild West Shootout. I left that out, but yeah, I'll still do those. Two of my favorite. Getting to travel out there to New Mexico is really cool, and spending that time out there. I still do. I left out Flow, didn't I? I completely forgot. I do the Flow Racing Night in America deal too. I'm the race director for it, but it's 10 races, and this year like 4 of them in 1 week.
You've run out of weekends.
Do you still have the regular job?
I do. I'm a paramedic supervisor in Newberry County.
You know he's a paramedic.
I did not.
Newberry, South Carolina. This is my 26th year there, and my 32nd year as a paramedic.
Yeah.
Yeah, still got that job. Have to have something to pay the bills, because Lord knows we're not going to pay it with racing. But yeah, that's the Dome, Wild West Shootout, and Flow Racing Night in America. That's allowed me to travel a lot further than I'd ever been. We have 3 Illinois tracks in 1 week this year in May, and then take 2 days off and come back and go to Marshalltown, Iowa, which is one of the best racetracks in America. If you've never seen it, you got to go, or at least watch it on TV. Their stock car racing every night's worth the price of admission that they have. They have the one spin rule. If you're involved in one spin, you're done in any preliminary event. So those guys learned how to race.
Wow.
Without running over each other. They learned how to
So
race.
if you spin one time in the night, you're out for the whole
Preliminaries.
preliminary.
2 times in the feature, 1 time in preliminaries. You're done. And they've learned how to race.
That's a game changer.
So you
It is
can't spin
absolutely
out.
a game changer.
So you can't spin out in the preliminaries.
I mean,
Go
my buddy
to the
Dustin Jarrett talks all the time about how fast they run their shows. That's why they run their shows so fast, because nobody runs over each other, nobody wrecks. If they spin out, they try to keep going to keep from drawing the yellow.
Me and
Like
Rand
kids.
was at a race last year, and we're standing there, and it's 45 minutes into the 20-lap race, and Rand looks at me and he says, "I'd say, number so-and-so, 11th on back," because it's the back of the field.
Right.
To the pits. We'll put you back out there after a while when everybody goes home.
Yeah.
Let you speed on each other.
Kevin Gundaker told me one time that he had a sprint race, and they got 4 laps into it, and they'd had like 7 cautions 4 laps into it. He just made them all pull into the infield, and he ran his next race. He said, "I'll let y'all run after these guys know how to drive race."
Yeah.
He said he went back out after that, and they didn't have another caution. So he embarrassed them a
They're
little
kind of
bit.
like kids. Just sit your foot down.
He embarrassed them a little bit.
So with all the involvement you have with racing, especially over the years, what is one or even multiple? I'll give you the option, because with all you've done, there has to be more than one. What's your one or a couple of your most memorable moments that's fond to you?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
It is. There's been some personal moments that were big for me. My nephew, my great nephew, races late models now. He's 16. He's been racing since he was 11. Late models since he was 11. And so being there, for his first win in a late model and shutting up a lot of people at 12 years old was kind of a big thing.
Who's that?
Luke Cooper.
You know Lee Cooper?
Lee's son, yeah. Lee married my niece, Rusty's daughter. So if you know anything about Southern All-Stars, she was our trophy girl. Rusty's daughter was our trophy girl for a couple of years, back when we really had those. But that, and I was really touched and when they added me to Southern All Stars Hall of Fame
Yeah.
this past February last year. That meant a lot to me because I actually started the Hall of Fame. I asked BJ if we could do that, and BJ and Joe Lee were the first people to be put into it. So there's a lot of names in there that were important to me. So to be with them was really
That's a cool deal.
a big honor.
Yeah.
And then this year, the board and the a select group of voters gave me an award for the National Dirt Lake Mall Hall of Fame. I'll be a part of the National Dirt Lake Mall Hall of Fame now. I've been the secretary on that deal for a bunch of years.
So he's part of that too.
And yeah, I love it.
He's cutting back, folks.
Yeah, I am. I live it. I really do.
Yeah.
You
But
gotta love it. To do
I
that.
do. And a lot of it is like you guys. Now, how long have I known you guys? I've known, and your dad goes all the way back
Yeah.
to that. Jeff Walker, just passed away not too long ago. His wife still regularly will ask me how I'm doing. I've never met her face to face, but I sent her a thing, a picture of me and Jeff, and told her, sent my condolences to her, and she still to this day, every once in a while, she'll just send me and ask me how I'm doing. I thought that was pretty cool because that's the kind of people we have in racing.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
is.
Really what it's all about.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Did I cover you?
Bud, you covered it good.
Okay.
I like it. That's pretty awesome.
One more thing.
Okay.
I'm going to say one more because I remember this one, and I talk about this one a lot, and Rodney will remember probably, and Ricky and Randy too. The first time I ever saw Dwayne Hummel drive at Tazewell, I'll never forget that. BJ was with us. Story about BJ was BJ couldn't watch racing at Tazewell. This is no exaggeration. He would sit down in the floor of the tower, and he couldn't watch it just because it was so intense, and how high bank Tazewell is and fast. And Scott Sexton was leading, and Trammell was second.
Wow.
Dwayne's third. They drive off into turn 3, and we're 15 laps into the race. And Dwayne, I thought he was going out there in that cow pasture on the other side of turn 3 over there.
Mm-hmm.
He drove around the outside and took the lead before he got to the flag stand. And I was like, I'm not real sure what just happened here. I mean, he should have wrecked. Like 6 times he should have wrecked, and he didn't. And that was early in his career. That was 2000. I knew he was special, and fortunately, I was very fortunate to see a
You
lot of
heard
his
who he
races.
said he was leading, right? It ain't like that guy was a
No, it
backpedaler.
definitely was not a slouch at that place. And Trammell was pretty good there too.
Yeah.
That was a pretty exciting night. Tazewell's one of my favorite places. We got a race there this year. I'm excited to go
We
back
may
there.
have to make that trip. You ain't never been to Tazewell.
Yeah, you need to come. You need to come and check it out. Now, Tazewell's one of those places where if a wreck happens, you're probably going to be in it if it happens somewhere in front of you. And when I say somewhere, I mean like from turn 1 to turn 3. So it's probably going, if it's in front of you, you're probably going to be in it. It just happens so fast. It's really that fast.
Yeah, it's fast.
I remember Clint
Bad
Smith
fast.
unloaded a brand new GRT one year at Tazewell. I mean, brand new. Everything on it brand new. And the only thing he put back in the trailer that was straight was the dash gauge panel. I'll never forget him complaining about it. That's the rear Vic Hill. They knocked the rear clip off Vic Hill's car, split it in half.
Mm-hmm.
Tazewell's wild.
I seen that one night Jack Tremble do that with a brand new Bear ride. It's a pretty thing.
Yeah. Tazewell's wild.
He
man.
run about 3 laps and got in turn 1 wall, and it just demolished it. That's when he had the pipe for the fence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
A lot of history, buddy. A lot
Yeah.
of history.
Well, guys, this right here is where we're going to take you over to the product spotlight of this podcast. Today's product spotlight is going to be our Ultra Shield seat belts. For these seat belts, we offer them in many different variations. We offer them in a regular 3-inch all the way with a standard link and latch. We offer it with a 2-inch over-the-shoulder, 3-inch pull-down straps. You got them with the 3-inch all the way with a ratchet. and then you got a 2-inch all the way standard Lincoln latch, and then you have a 2-inch Hans style over the shoulder with a 3-inch pull down with a ratchet, and then you have an all 2-inch with a ratchet. These seatbelts start anywhere from $129.99 to $224.95. You can get these on our website at ppmracingproducts.com, or if you need help with which one is going to help you better with your racing style, and if you need help with your devices and which seatbelt will go with that, you can give us a call at 865-354-9669.
What's the part number on them?
USD HB 23051, and then L
That's
has
a ratchet.
It's a ratchet.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's the ratchet one.
Just checking.
No, a 5.1 is Hans, and with the L is a ratchet.
Okay.
Son,
Good deal.
don't try to mess with us. Hey, we know our game, don't we?
Listen, if they start asking you about a radiator cap for a Volkswagen, tell them to leave you alone.
Dude, I kid you not. I used to work at Advance, and one of my first weeks, I had that question asked 3 times. Like, they knew I was new, didn't know nothing. I was like, why? And that first guy got me good. I took like 2 hours trying to research it.
Like a blinker fluid.
Dude, oh, come on. I knew that, but
I called him the other day and asked him if he had a wiggling pin
For a wobbling shaft.
for a wobbling.
he got me good because,
He
dude,
said,
it was
"What's
just a
that
hectic
for?" I said,
day.
"A wobbling shaft."
Did you do this?
I know, like, Rodney was sitting there working on something, and he heard him.
I heard him and I went,
And he's like, "Do you got a wall or a one of those pins?" And
Wiggling pins.
I looked at Rodney and I was like, "What?"
he looked down there and I said, for a wobbling shaft.
And then as soon as he said it, Ricky goes, "For a wobbling shaft." And I was like, "Oh my god!" It's just one of them days, bud.
I was thinking about them ratchet belts. I always had the type you had to pull. And they never, I bet them really do.
Yeah.
I bet they're really
That's
nice.
what my nephew runs them. He loves them because they stay tight. Mm-hmm. Once you ratchet them down, they don't get loose. I've heard guys saying under caution they're always
Yes,
pulling
ever
the belts
caution.
down.
He was pulling. And the next thing you know, just in the floor.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you though, in a dirt car, I had a guy, one of my customers, buy them, and I tried to tell him not to, and he wanted it. That cam lock. He wanted a cam lock, and I was like, I don't think so. He's like, order me. So I was like, okay. I got him a set, and sure enough, about 4 races later, he's like, that steering wheel hit that, and it unbolted.
When we do that one race,
Yeah. They're real bad if they get dirt in them too. That it's
they
hard to
bind
turn.
up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Kelley, who all would you like to thank for all your success over the years and even up to today?
Oh wow, that list is long. I do want Janet and Fred Cogswell, B.J. Parker, Lynn Ackland, all those guys that contributed. My brother Rusty, my dad who took me to my race. My mom took me to the races, I guess I should say, because I was a little kid. So, but my mom took me to the races. My dad for letting me grow up in a race shop and seeing race cars and falling in love with race cars. My girlfriend Kristen is a big part of. She had never been to a race in her life until she started dating me. So, and now she's ate up with it. She may not necessarily like the racing, but she likes being a part of it. She helps me with everything we do, and I couldn't do it without her. She's here to help me with the trade show this weekend. So, and just all the guys that work with me that have helped me over the years, and that list is way too long to name, but they've all been a big part of being successful. And I did learn from BJ early on, surround yourself with good people, and you don't ever have to worry about anything. And so all those folks, obviously all of our sponsor people that have helped us over the years, a lot of those guys have become close friends. I like the Hambys here, and Joe Benson at Rayseaver, he and I are tight. Just so many people that I've built the relationships with through this stuff. I appreciate all of them and appreciate what they've contributed to me over the years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't. When you get asked that question, you don't realize you go to thinking about how many there is.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Kelley, we appreciate you very much for coming on the podcast with us. Again, tell them your websites for all of your social media. And goodness.
It's okay.
Tell them your websites and all of your social media links, so if they have any questions or want to check you out, they know where to go and can go get all the information they want.
For sure. SouthernThunderSeries.com is our website for our new Super Late Model Series, the Southern Thunder Super Dirt Series. It's the Southeast region. And then SCDRA is SCDRA.net. We're on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever they call it nowadays. And we'll have our, hopefully have our, what's that other one I told you I didn't know much about? TikTok up on our Southern Thunder stuff soon. Also, gatewaydirt.net, gatewaydirt.com, wildwestshootout.com, and flowseries.com are also all those three that they take good care of me, and I want to make sure they get a mention too.
What is it, Savage Daddy says? Savage Daddy?
Savage Daddy.
What's up, TikTok?
Oh, that's Jason Welsh.
Yeah. I watch him and it cracks me up. He'll say, "What's up, TikTok?"
I'm proud of those guys. I'm really looking forward to. I got a race with him and Jamie at Tri-County, so looking forward. They've done a lot of work. So shout out to anybody that's out there spending money on a racetrack to get back into racing, because there's so many of us out there that are looking to find ways to get out of racetracks. I appreciate anybody that's willing to spend the time and the money that they have. So
yes, they have.
So support them. Tri-County Racetrack, Brasstown, North Carolina.
Yep.
I want to thank Kelley for everything he's done for us over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a group effort.
Yeah. Like he said, that we started this sponsoring. One of the best things we ever done was when we done the Southern All-Star deal. That was the one that and PRI, I say, is really what catapulted us, and it's developed into a great relationship.
For sure.
Absolutely. So, guys, for all your racing part needs, go to ppmracingproducts.com. If you have any tech questions or just want to order parts over the phone, call us at 865-354-9669, and we'll get you taken care of. And, again, thank you, Kelley, for coming here and doing this. Look forward to a great season with both your series. These boys talk so highly about you all the time, so it's nice to finally meet you, too. So, guys, thank y'all for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below who you'd like to see on the upcoming podcast. And, guys, we will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.
Hey, subscribe, like.
Hit that button.
Come on, get it up on the wheel. Go in there. You just smell poop or see Jesus. Let's get it done.